When it comes to the Neo Geo Pocket, I'm kind of out of my depth. You see, it's not a system I grew up playing, nor have I dabbled in its game library until fairly recently. But by complete chance I happened to stumble upon one of the only few RPGs for the Neo Geo Pocket, and even then, Dark Arms Beastbuster is no normal RPG. It's in fact an action RPG with a little bit of Pokemon thrown in for good measure. Yes, you heard me correctly. Dark Arms Beastbusters is an action RPG with a gotta catch 'em all Pokemon vibe to it. And while you ponder that, let's go over this game's story. Now don't worry, we'll get back to the whole action RPG Pokemon thing later in the review. Upon starting the game, you're soon greeted with some text that tells of a group that once existed called Beastbusters. Now, these Beastbusters are specialists in the art of killing mysterious phenomena. Among these Beastbusters, there is said to be a book called The Contract of Darkness. This book is said to contain information on how to acquire an indestructible weapon to fight the darkness with. One of these Beastbusters has entered into a contract of darkness and has gone to the world of spirits to get this almighty weapon. Your only guide on his journey is a being called Kasso, the Suiton Master. But can he be trusted? So let me get this straight. Some dude who we just named finds a book called The Contract of Darkness, and shortly after reading it enters into a contract of darkness with the Contract of Darkness. And then later in the game we found out he lost his memory as well when he signed that damn contract. Wow, that's some pretty bizarre storytelling, but let's just run with it and see where it goes. So, the gist of this game's story is, we're journeying into the underworld to create the ultimate weapon. But how does one go about creating the ultimate weapon born from darkness? Well, first thing before we can even think about making our super weapon is we need to find eggs. And throughout your journey into the underworld, you're going to find about 10 eggs in total. The first one is easy enough to find and is waiting for you in a crypt at the Graveyard of Darkness. Other eggs can be found after boss fights. Okay, now that we have our first egg, we need to head straight back to the Master's house to create our first weapon. Once back at the Master's house, we need to feed our eggs and lucky for us, the first is provided to us by the Master. Different have different abilities, and throughout our adventure into the underworld, you're going to collect many different So it's up to you which you decide to feed to your eggs. To start off with, we only have the handgun so let's feed that to our egg. Cool, now we have a bitchin' gun that will make short work of killer monsters. But it's not quite the ultimate weapon we're searching for. Over time, these weapons we've created can be leveled up to become more powerful, but to truly take them to the next level, we need to evolve them. To do that, we need to collect souls, and there's plenty to be found. You collect souls with the catcher, and in total you can collect 100 souls before we need to feed them to our weapons. Every soul has a different EVP value, so do we only try to collect the toughest monsters in order to get the quickest and highest amount of EVP points? Well, that tactic doesn't really work from my experience. I found the best way to acquire EVP points was just going for the weaker monsters most of the time, and going for the tougher monsters tends to be a time-consuming process. But there are a few monsters scattered around that have higher EVP values and aren't much of a challenge to capture. Okay, now that we have some souls collected, let's feed them to our handgun. It only takes around 100 EVP points to evolve our handgun to its next form, and once evolved we can choose to upgrade our gun to a submachine gun, a beam gun, or a shotgun. I think I'll go with the beam gun. The beam gun is definitely an improvement over the handgun and is worthy of being included in our arsenal of otherworldly weapons. But it still isn't quite the ultimate weapon we're searching for. To truly evolve our beam gun to its final form, the Vanisher, it will take another 500 EVP points. This form is almost the same as the beam gun, but with the added benefit of allowing you to be invisible as well. But there is a downside to evolving your gun past its beam gun form, and that is once you start using your gun, you immediately turn invisible, and your energy bar for this weapon also starts to drain very quickly even when you're not using it. And once your energy bar for this weapon depletes, you'll have to wait for it to refill again before you can reuse it, so it's always handy to have multiple weapons at your disposal. In total there are 31 weapons to create, and when you also add elemental attacks to your weapons, which can be achieved by feeding a monster with an elemental ability, then you end up with a possible 124 weapons you can create. There really isn't an ultimate weapon to shoot for in this game, but a bunch of possible weapons which can be leveled up or evolved to suit your playing style. I haven't experimented with every weapon in all its forms, but the few I did experiment with I felt I made good choices. But half the fun of this game is experimenting for yourself and finding out what weapons and weapon combinations work best for you. So once you've settled on your prized weapon, it won't be long before your adventure's over. I would guess you could finish this game between 3 to 6 hours. Now, this game's length is perfect for me, but for others 6 hours top is not a long enough experience for hardcore RPG gamers to really invest their time into this game. But there are two things that can extend this game experience, and the first one is monster soul collecting. This game has a bestiary of monsters which is updated whenever you collect a new monster for the first time. I had no desire to collect all 50 of this game's monsters, but if Pokemon or even monster collecting is your thing, then this feature will keep you busy long after you finish the game. The second thing that extends this game after you completed it is the reveal of a whopping 50 floor dungeon, and it's only on the 50th floor that you get to fight the biggest, baddest demon of the Dark Realm. I have yet to complete this final dungeon, but I felt good about calling it quits on the 10th floor. Also, just in case I didn't mention, this game is an action RPG, so there are no turn-based battles. Everything happens in real time, so you can freely move, attack and dodge at will, but unlike most RPGs, or even action RPGs, there are no items to collect other than keys which are given to you by the townsfolk. There are only 3 ways to regain health in this game. The first is to take a nap at the Master's house, which also turns day to night, or night to day, and you'll need to change from night all day to progress further in this game's story. The second way to regain health is to walk past one of the many health boxes scattered throughout the underworld. And the third way to regain health is by stepping onto a health regeneration spot, and these spots can be used as many times as you like, but you only start to see these regeneration spots way late in the game. Also, the only way to save your game is at the Master's house. It's not fair to compare this game to its kin outside of its respected system, and so I haven't tried to, but at least wanted to fairly review this game, while keeping in mind what the Neo Geo's Pocket Library has to offer. So for this review I played a fair amount of Neo Geo Pocket games, and I've got to say that Dark Arms Beastbusters is not only one of the better games for the system, it's also one of the best looking ones for it as well. And aside from the music being slightly repetitive, it's simply excellent, and perfectly captures the mood and tone this game is trying to invoke. Apart from the collecting of souls and the thrill of making your ultimate weapon, there isn't a whole lot of depth to this game, especially with the story. Sure, this game's story starts up well enough, but soon falls apart shortly into your adventure. The characters certainly don't add anything to the plot, and apart from the Master, none of the characters in this game display any kind of character, or are able to explain themselves. The best example of this has to be the character Megan. You meet her before a boss fight at Rest Hamlet for the first time. She reveals to you that she went into a contract of darkness for unexplained reasons about 15 years prior to you. In that time she lost her body and is now stuck in the underworld along with all the residents who populate it. These residents are here in the underworld because their souls were ripped out of their bodies for, again, unnamed reasons. Megan implores you not to trust the Master before she runs off. You meet her again at Shattertown, where she tells you of a person there who can help you, and it isn't towards the end of the game that you get to see her again. Once at the Wandering Town, this game's story tries to come to some kind of an emotional conclusion. The music sets the mood up perfectly for this to happen, but the dialogue is so atrocious that this emotional moment is negated, and all you're left with is an unsatisfying conclusion to your adventure. There was obviously an attempt to tell a compelling story in Dark Arms, but it just never comes together. The dialogue throughout this game just doesn't read that well, or really make clear to you what you're supposed to be doing, or where to go next. Due to poor writing, or maybe even a poor translation, this game's story leaves a lot to be desired. Also, the idea of catching souls to feed and evolve your weapons with sounds good on paper, but it's poorly executed. Firstly, your catcher, which you use to capture souls, never levels up, so it's always going to take quite a number of shots to capture anything. You could use one of your many weapons to first weaken the monster, and then collect their souls in a weakened state. But with no way to know how much health a monster has, you're going to kill a lot of them by mistake before you get a chance to collect their souls. If you just approach this game from the point of view of, I've got to get all them souls, as well as create that super weapon, then there is enjoyment to be had here. The weapon forging system is very innovative, and the combat is tight and responsive, and very satisfying. However, I can't forgive that completely bonkers broken story, as well as a soul catching system that isn't entirely well thought out. But maybe I should give this game some slack because after all, it is a side entry to an arcade shooter series. So, let's all find out about the Beastbusters series. The first game in the series is simply called Beastbusters, and was released in 1989 for the arcade. Interestingly, this was the last game SNK released before adopting their Neo Geo MVS arcade system. This looks like a really good looking and fun arcade shooter, but I find it funny that these Beastbusters are meant to be specialists in the art of killing anything supernatural, when all they seem to do is just shoot anything that moves. And also, why do all the zombies have guns? Well, anyway, next in this series is Beastbusters Second Nightmare. Now, this game was released for the ill-fated Hyper Neo Geo 64 in 1998 and was one of only 7 games released for this arcade system. With no way to play this game, all I can say is that Beastbusters Second Nightmare looks okay, considering it came out in that awkward period when 3D gaming hadn't quite found its stride. Next we have a spin-off game called Dark Arms Beastbusters for the Neo Geo Pocket. This would be yet another game released on a short-lived system by SNK, but this time it's for a handheld system, as opposed to an arcade or a consoleized arcade system. Dark Arms was made for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, but the game works just fine on the original non-color Neo Geo Pocket. So, if you have a love for all things monochrome, then you can force ngp.emu to emulate this game in all its glorious monochrome glory, or in colour like it was intended to be. And finally, released in 2014, we have Beastbusters, featuring KOF for ISO and Android. This game was released for the series' 25th anniversary of the original Beastbusters game, and also to tie in with the King of Fighters' 20th anniversary. As of the 31st of August 2015, the free in-game microtransaction version has been discontinued, but the deluxe version is still available for purchase. I'll be honest, I never really got into the whole Android gaming scene outside of running emulators on my phone or tablet, and because of that I don't really feel qualified to comment on this game. So all I'm going to say is this game looks gorgeous and can be fun to play. Well, now you know all about Dark Hunt Beastbusters, the series is a part of, and its place within it. So if you're looking for a decent action RPG, I would consider other titles. But if all you're after is a short, okay-ish action RPG that you can play on the go, then I would recommend this game despite its problems. And if you're looking to get into Neo Geo Pocket collecting, then this game should most definitely be in your collection. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.